The rise of America was indeed surprising because North America was ignored for over 100 years. Columbus was searching for a trade route to Asia, but he found the Caribbean islands and mistakenly thought they were India. Spain's interest was in South America, where gold and silver were actually plentiful. Through a treaty, Spain and Portugal divided the world, and the Spanish Empire solidified its control over South America. Meanwhile, North America, where the Spanish found no gold, remained useless land to them. Early English attempts, like the colony at Roanoke, 1585, failed, but the colonies of Jamestown and Plymouth were eventually successful. The Pilgrims established strict religious settlements. Gradually, the East Coast filled up with British colonies, while the French claimed the large middle portion of North America. When the population of the British colonies exceeded 1 million, the time for the French and Indian War arrived in 1754. Due to a larger population, the British defeated the French in the French and Indian War. With this victory, Britain acquired Canada and a portion of Louisiana. However, the war cost Britain a great deal of money, and they now needed funds. Therefore, they began imposing heavy taxes on the colonies. The colonists opposed this because they did not have the right to vote in the British Parliament. This was the struggle of taxation without representation. This disagreement quickly escalated into a revolution, and on July 4, 1776, the Americans declared their independence from Great Britain. After winning the war, a new nation was created, but the initial government was a complete mess. The Founding Fathers resolved the issue by drafting a new constitution in 1789, after which George Washington became the first president. America was still small at this time. Meanwhile, Napoleon was gaining power in Europe. Americans required access to the Mississippi River, so they requested France sell them New Orleans. Napoleon, intending to raise money for his war against Britain, sold the entire Louisiana territory for $15 million. This purchase immediately doubled the size of America. The timing of the Louisiana Purchase was perfect because America's population was nearly doubling every 20 years. All these people needed a place to live. Many Americans moved west, where they began claiming land. In 1819, America bought Florida from Spain. 2 years later, Mexico gained independence from Spain. The Mexican government, wanting to increase the population of its northern territories, invited Americans to settle in Texas. Soon, the Texan settlers outnumbered the Mexicans. They declared independence and created the Republic of Texas. Initially, the USA refused to annex Texas due to the issue of slavery, but eventually, Texas joined the Union in 1845. Disputes over the Texas border led to the Mexican-American War, and at the end of the war, the USA bought a large part of Mexico for $15 million. Additionally, the Oregon Territory was acquired through a treaty with the British. Thus, through just 50 years of great fortune and one war, America stretched from sea to sea. While America was prospering with the discovery of gold in California and free land in Oregon, it faced one major internal problem: slavery. After Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860, most of the slaveholding states separated from the country and formed their own nation, which triggered the Civil War. The North won, the enslaved people were freed, and the United States was reunited. Immediately after this, Russia sold Alaska to America for $7 million. A short time later, American businessmen gained control of the Hawaiian Islands and requested the USA to annex them. The president initially refused, but due to the fear of other great powers, like Germany or Japan, Hawaii was annexed during the Spanish-American War, 1898. In this war, America also took Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines from Spain, effectively ending the Spanish Empire. When Theodore Roosevelt became president, he oversaw the construction of the Panama Canal, which allowed the American Navy to move swiftly between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. America had now become a great world power as World War I began. Entry into World War I, 1917. Initially, President Woodrow Wilson tried to keep America neutral, but events like Germany's submarine attacks, unrestricted submarine warfare, and the Zimmermann telegram, in which Germany incited Mexico to attack the USA, changed the stance of the American public and government. In April 1917, the USA declared war against Germany and sent its army, American Expeditionary Forces, to Europe to aid the Allied powers, Britain and France. The fresh arrival of American troops turned the tide of the war, and the Allied powers won in November 1918. Isolationism and the Roaring Twenties. After the war, America's politics shifted back towards a stance of isolationism, remaining separate. Rejection of the League of Nations. Despite President Wilson's efforts, the U.S. Senate rejected the Treaty of Versailles and did not join the League of Nations, the organization intended to unite the world. America once again adopted a policy of staying out of international affairs. Prohibition. In 1920, the 18th Amendment banned the manufacturing and sale of alcohol, which is known as prohibition. This era saw the rise of bootlegging and criminal syndicates, mafia. The Roaring Twenties. This was a period of great prosperity and consumer culture in America. People began to enjoy new cars, radios, and a luxurious lifestyle. This era is also referred to as the Jazz Age. The Great Depression and the New Deal. Suddenly, this prosperity came to an end. Stock market crash, 1929. The collapse of the stock market on Wall Street triggered the Great Depression in the country, which lasted for a decade. Thousands of banks closed, and millions of people became unemployed. New Deal. To pull the country out of this Great Recession, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, FDR, initiated the New Deal programs. These included major government schemes, such as unemployment relief, public works projects like the Civilian Conservation Corps, and Social Security, pension for the elderly. World War II and global superpower, America's final and most crucial turning point came when the world became entangled in a second Great War. World War II, 1939 to 1945. When the war began in Europe and Asia, the USA again tried to remain neutral. However, President Roosevelt initiated the Lease-Lend Act to help the Allies, especially Britain. Pearl Harbor attack. In December 1941, after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, America finally entered World War II. Victory and atomic power. The USA played a vital role in the Allied victory in Europe and in defeating Japan in the Pacific. The war ended after atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The beginning of the Cold War. After World War II, the USA emerged as the world's largest and strongest economic and military power. However, its strength was challenged by the power of the Soviet Union, Russia, which marked the beginning of the Cold War era. Cold War. This was an ideological and political struggle between America and the Soviet Union. In this conflict, the two nations did not fight directly, but clashed through political and military support across the world, such as the Korean War and the Vietnam War. Nuclear arms race. A nuclear arms race began between the two nations, which put the world at risk for several decades.